When Raina sat down in the cafe, she was surprised to see Rick enter and head towards her table. Rick and his wife, Louise, have been neighbors with Rena and her husband for almost 4 years. They were both slightly older than her, well into their 40s rather than mid-30s. But they had become quite close with Brad and her. They even spent several vacations together, as couples with and without children. "Rick, what a surprise," Rena said slightly excitedly, looking around the door. "Shouldn't you be at work?" "I can say the same about you," he said calmly, sitting down opposite her. "I took the afternoon off for personal matters, and I assume that you did the same?" Rena sneezed. "Busy morning, and I needed a little recharge. This is all. Never imagined that you were a fan of cafes like this?" "You're right, I'm not a fan," Rick said, looking into her eyes. But she continued to look away. "Honestly, I saw you come in here and decided to join. We need to talk. Is there something wrong?" "I hope nothing happened to Louise," Rena said. Rick looked down for a moment and smiled at her. "No, everything is okay. Thanks for taking care of me. You and Brad have become very important to us, and we know we can count on you if anything happens to either of us. I wouldn't hesitate to do the same. That's why I needed to come here." "What's the matter?" "I'm fine. I'm just a little nervous," Rena said. "Have you already made love to him?" Rick interrupted her in a calm, slightly lowered voice. "What?" Rena's face flushed. "I don't know about whom." "The guy who keeps you looking at the door, that's who," Rick said. "Is it true? Did you make love to him?" "No, nothing like that." Rena's face flushed and began to involuntarily move her hands. Rick closed his eyes and smiled, shaking his head. He opened them and touched her hand gently, as a father would. "You must listen to me. I'll tell you what's going on, what you probably think about what's happening, and finally what he thinks about it. This is really important." Rena just nodded. "He's charming, either younger or more successful than Brad. He seems to have some better qualities than your husband, and has allowed you to pour your heart out to him. He also compliments you very well. When you need someone, he is always there, and at some point sacrifices something for it. How is everything correct so far?" Rena felt her body tense. "How do you know? Does Frank know?" "He suspects. Of course he suspects," Rick said. "And you know he suspects, but he has no proof. I'm sure you made him feel like an idiot because of these suspicions." "How do I know?" "Here's what happened. In the last 2 weeks, 2 important events happened, and you missed them both for the same reason. Something happened to Mr. Charming, and he needed you as a friend. And because you felt obligated to him, you missed both your son's birthday and your 9th birthday dinner to be with him. Anniversary. Nothing happened. We are just friends. And he's such a friend that you hide him from your husband because he won't understand. This friend wants to know everything about your husband, and you told him, even intimate details that you probably wouldn't share with me. In everything you say, he supports you and makes it seem like it's all Brand's fault. No matter what problems you have, I bet he makes even Brad's suspicions that something is going on a proof of what a terrible husband he is. Was it the day you missed your son's party or dinner with your husband that he kissed you and confessed his attraction to you?" Rena's jaw dropped. "How did you know that?" "When?" She lowered her head and her hand shook a little. "When I missed our anniversary. He was depressed because his old friend died. It just happened." Rick nodded. "So, here's an honest look at what happened. From your defensive behavior and the fact that you're sitting here right now waiting for him, I think it went a little further than just a kiss. No romantic relationship, but you've gone far enough that if you caught Brad doing the same thing, you'd consider it cheating. However, you think it's partly Brad's fault because he's not the husband you want. As Mr. Charm kindly points out, he is just a friend, giving you what you think you don't get at home. Still, you're attracted to him and slightly excited by his attention, but you don't plan on crossing that line. You've probably convinced yourself that you haven't done it yet, but Bob out, most of you already feels guilty and hopes Brad never finds out about this. Are you going to tell him? Rena asked. So, you admit that I've been right so far? Rick clarified. I must say that I guess about your feelings, it's easier to predict actions. We slept together, but I couldn't get over it, Raina said, her eyes watering. He understood everything and just hugged me while we slept. We did some things, but kept our clothes on, mostly. Brad was acting so stupid and I was angry and drunk. And you pretty much proved him right, Rick said. No, I won't tell Brad any of this, but he'll figure it out on his own. Okay, now here's what he thinks about what's going on. Mr. Charming sees an attractive woman who is busy. He sees vulnerabilities that he can use to manipulate her. Reed? No. Rena shuddered, but Rick stopped her with a calm gesture of his hand. Mr. Charm knows this because he has experience in this matter. Sorry for the bad cliché, but this is not his first rodeo. See, you believe that you are his target. You're not stupid enough to not realize that he's been wanting to sleep with you since you started dating him behind your husband's back. Charm makes you think it's all about something special between you and provides what your husband is missing. And Charm tried damn hard to point out everything your husband was missing. That's because it's not about you, it's about Brad. Charm gets the thrill of knowing he's going to take something away from Brad. That's why he convinced you to skip 2 very important events to show that he meant more to you than Brad. It was no coincidence that the death of a friend and whatever other crisis occurred at the exact same time that you missed both events. Brad's birthday is in 3 weeks, and something is bound to happen that will change all your plans because it has to do with Brad. He won't do that? Rick raised an eyebrow. You were in the arms of Mr. Charming while your husband waited in the restaurant for an hour before you finally texted him that you weren't coming. Why did you stay late at work for a friend who got food poisoning? I wasn't even creative enough to say the name. Probably so Brad wouldn't be able to check. So now you are waiting for Mr. Charm, skipping work. You showed your current priorities. And of course, they are not your marriage. He wants me, Rena said. That's all. He doesn't want Brad to know as much as I do. He doesn't even know my husband. No, Charm knows a lot about him because he asked you about every detail. He knows Brad through you. Mr. Charming knows damn well that Brad has every right to be suspicious. And he also knows that he can convince you that this is an overreaction. He needs that suspicion, that growing wedge between the two of you. Otherwise, there is no chance of completing the case. Because, and listen carefully, I said this is about Brad, not you. Mr. Charming thinks he'll get all he can from you, and then once he realizes he's completely stolen you from Brad and you belong to him, he'll reveal his endgame. He will make sure that your loving husband finds out everything, and then he may continue the physical relationship for some time, at least until he finds his next trophy. How do you know this? What, Anne Louise? Rick smiled. My wife and I have been faithfully married for many years, but I wasn't always married. You have 2 options. Continue this affair, and you know that this is just an affair, and try to prove to me that I'm wrong, that this will not end only in bed, that everything will remain a secret because Mr. Charm is not who I made him out to be, or end it and hope to save your marriage. Once Charm has everything he wants to get, he will make sure Brad knows, maybe even lies, about you going further than you really are, Rena cried. Please, I can't. Brad can't find out. Rick walked up to her, hugged her reassuringly, and whispered in her ear, Then don't do anything. Not even kiss anyone on the cheek without your husband's knowledge. Otherwise, I'm damn sure he'll find out. Rena, is this person upsetting you? A voice came from behind them. Rick turned around and saw a young guy, tall and slender, with a huge beard. Well, you must be Reed, and I must be Brad. Rick extended his hand for a handshake, and the other man slowly did the same. He grabbed Reed's hand and squeezed hard. Rick pulled him closer to whisper in his ear, twisting one of his fingers. Listen to me, you vomit. You will throw a scandal, and this finger will be broken. You won't talk to my wife. You won't talk about my wife, or I'll kill you. You are not her husband, Reed said with pain in his voice. Who are you? You're wrong because you care about who I am. Just between you and me, I'm the only one you can talk to about this, otherwise, you've got your fingers partially in the cookie jar, but don't risk losing your hand. She's not worth it, is she? No, no, definitely not, Reed said, rubbing his arm after Rick let go. Damn waste of time. For 2 months, I got almost nothing out of her. Rena was sure that Reed had not seen the blow coming. Everyone watched in silence as Rick stood with his hands raised while Reed got up from the floor and hurried to the door. Self-defense, guys. The man was harassing my sister, and you saw how he became aggressive when I told him to stop. There were cheers, and everyone returned to their work. Rick turned and said to Renee, "You have a second chance. Go home and be the wife your husband deserves. I know it will be difficult, but tell him that he was right to suspect you, but you stop it before it was too late. Don't mention that I had to intervene. It will be better for you. I know Brad. He'll be angry, but he'll want to end it." "Thank you," Rena said, wiping her eyes. "I didn't do it for you," Rick said, "but for Brad and to atone a little for my own actions in the past. Have a good day. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.